Hello everyone and welcome to another Peaceful Solution Character Education Program parenting class. Last week we ended on page 74 and we were talking about life skills that you would teach your children so they can become the best people that they can become. They can help society and get to where they want to be in life in the best way. And as parents, our job is to teach them those skills so they can become the best people that they can be. So we're going to go over to page LP 9B, and we're going to start on procedure 6. Activity number 1. Talk about the section assigning chores on page 75. Have students break into 5 groups, assign an age range, ages 3 to 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 10, 11 through 12, and 13 plus, to each group, and have them determine appropriate chores for the age range assigned. Have them brainstorm how they can help children in that age range be responsible for their chores. Allow them to share with the class. So before we get into that activity, we would go to page 75. So let's go ahead and go to page 75. And it's entitled Assigning Chores. Assigning chores should be a common practice within the family unit. Everyone should have appropriately assigned jobs they must do to contribute to the maintenance of the house. And I underlined that. Everyone should have an appropriate assigned job. And as we go further, we'll learn what it means by an appropriate assigned job. But when you think about it, when children, they're born and they grow up, they're used to the house. They're used to a car. They might not yet understand the concept that this actually had to be bought. There was a lot of action that took place to get your family to where it is at this moment. So when you have each person have an assigned job, no matter what it is, you're showing them that everything takes work and everything deserves to be taken care of. Remember, though, that just because it's not anyone's particular job to do something, like pick up the scrap of paper from the floor, everyone has a responsibility to pick it up when they see it. And this is how respect and consideration is taught. Because if you see something on the floor, and let's say someone didn't realize they dropped it, are you going to leave it on the floor because it is not your assigned job to pick up trash? No, you can point out to the person, did you realize you dropped it? Can I pick it up for you? If you find something that's not yours, let's say it's a valuable item, you can take it to your authority figures. These are the parts about ownership that we want to really show that you don't have to be assigned to show care to someone. Whenever you see something on the ground, if it's trash, as a person, it is your responsibility to pick it up and put it in the trash can. If you see a valuable item, take it to your authority figure. If someone drops something, ask, can I pick it up for you? These are the rights of respect and ownership that need to be shown to everyone. When it comes to giving your child chores to do, use these basic guidelines to help bring success. And I want to note here that whenever we do give children chores, really emphasize that it's quality over quantity. You might have a list of chores to do, but take your time and do the chores properly. If you don't get them done, that's okay. And then as a parent, you'll realize they get this done in this time period. So if I need all of these chores done, maybe I should spread them out a little bit or start a little bit earlier. But it's quality over quantity. Do your best at your job. It doesn't matter how fast you get it done, but it's what effort are you putting to getting these chores done. So these are the basic guidelines that will help us bring success. Number 1, make sure chores are age appropriate. And last week we covered the difference in age appropriate chores, which 2 to 3 might be picking up blocks, or 4 to 5 might be watering the flowers. 6 to 7, the age might be sorting laundry, or 8 to 10 taking out trash. So as you go through, or as your child goes through stages, you'll be able to see what they're great at and what their strengths are, what their strengths are not. But It says, for example, a young child would do better with just a simple chore and a big dose of patience and praise, whereas an older child can have a list of chores to do. So this is what it's talking about, age-appropriate chores. You wouldn't tell your toddler to go take out the trash. You might tell them to throw their paper in the trash, but what you just have to make sure that the chores you're giving are appropriate. And you also know your child. If your child gets overwhelmed, might be a little bit careful of how you give them the instructions. If you were to give your child a whole list of chores, that might be overwhelming. So you might start saying, can you do this and this? And when you're done, come back and see me. So then you can give them the next chore that they need to do. But they also feel successful and not looking at, oh my word, I have so much to do. But if they're a child that's okay with the list, then also encourage them to mark it off so they know which ones I've done and which ones I still need to do. And for that big dose of patience, let's go ahead and turn to page 54. Page 54. And point number 2, it's under the general tips for teaching anger management skills. Number 2, it says be patient. Every parent needs a big dose of the positive character trait of patience, because no lesson is taught just once. Children learn through repetition, so expect to patiently teach and reteach. And if we're unsure, or we just want a clear definition of what patience is, on page 18, it has a positive character traits. And it says patience means demonstrating self-control and remaining calm through setbacks. And we know that self-control is when we control our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. Because we can have a lot of things to do in our life, but there's also going to be setbacks. So it's how are you going to handle those setbacks? How are you going to respond? It's okay to feel all of these emotions, but what are you doing with those emotions? That's really the emphasis that the peaceful solution gives, and really wants everyone to think about, is that you can have these emotions. Things are not going to go as planned, but how are you coping? How are you dealing with those emotions? Are you letting them control you? So as parents, when we do give chores or assignments, really think about that. Am I being patient? Am I handling this the best way possible? Number 2, explain in detail what you want your child to do. That way they know what is expected of them. Number 3, do the chore with your child. Explain each step and why it is necessary. Now this is where your big dose of patience comes in, because you might be a busy person. You know, parents, we're very busy. We are parents, but we also have a lot going on. But taking that time to show your child what they need to do step by step, that will save you so much. That does not mean that they're not going to come back and say, I don't remember exactly how to clean this part. Because they know that right there, if they are willing to come and ask you, that means that you've made it a comfortable environment where they are okay with coming and asking you for advice. So whenever you are teaching your child to do something, take them through all the necessary steps. If they ask, why is this done this way? Explain why it is done this way. And why should we explain things to our children? The why they should do this, why they should clean? Because it teaches them to value that. If they're just doing it because they're told to do it, you're cleaning this because you're supposed to clean it. Okay, you can do it at face value, but knowing the reason why you're doing it makes it that much more important. Once your child can do the chore on his own, leave him alone and allow him to do it himself. And this is where accountability comes in. If they know what's expected of them, it's their choice. It's their choice. So then later we're going to go on to rewards and consequences, but focusing on a child who's willing to do their chore, you as a child are a parent, you're very, you're overwhelmed with joy because I taught my child how to do this, and now they're doing it willingly. Number 5, after he is done with the chore, have him show you what he did. Lovingly offer any tips for improvement and offer praise for a job that's well done. And this is also where it teaches accountability, because they can't just say, I'm done. Okay, now show me what you did. And they're like, maybe I'm not quite ready yet. or they might be eager. So it shows that my job is going to be seen by everybody, so I should put even more effort into doing it. But offering those tips of improvement. When I was in speech class, something they always said when you were evaluating someone is to give them praise and then give them one or two things to work on, but always tell them something that they did well. Because if you walk into a place, or no matter what you're doing, and all you hear is someone telling you what you're not doing well, you might think, why try? And that might be a negative thought, but if that's exactly what you're feeling, then are you going to try? No. So we can start with ourselves to always encourage people. Always encourage people. Yes, not everything's going to go right, not everything's going to be perfect, but the fact that someone is trying says a lot about them. The fact that they're willing to listen and put forth the effort, that says a lot. So use a chart such as the example below to record your child's progress with his or her responsibilities. Of course, chores will vary according to age and accountability. So the chart has make the bed, put dirty clothes in a hamper, put clean clothes away, set table, remove dishes from table, pick up belongings, sweep floor and vacuum, and clean and tidy. And then it has the days of the week. So you can mark off that they can put a check by if they've done it. And this kind of goes back to, I don't know if anyone has potty trained a child before, but sometimes children, they just don't want to be potty trained. So what do we do as parents? We might make charts. There was this chart that I used when I was potty training children, and it was like this zigzag, and like every other 10 steps there would be a big one, like you did well, and then they would get something a little bit bigger, whether it was a pencil or something. But for each of those steps they would put a sticker, and that showed the child, hey, I can do this, I did a great job. It showed their progress. So in the same way it did with that chart is exactly what these chores are going to, this chore chart is going to do for your children. Show their progress, but also make them aware of this is what is required of me. Show appreciation to your child by thanking him for what he has done. Show appreciation to your child by thanking him for his help when he has done his chores responsibly. Praise is a great motivator. There is no need to buy your child by rewarding him with gifts. It is everyone's responsibility to assist in keeping the home clean and orderly. Going back to appropriately assigned chores. The home is a place that you're living in, something that you should take care of. And as a family, you help and take responsibility. You do your part. So there should be no reason for you to have to pay your children to do the chores. We covered last week, though, that there are extra chores or things that you can pay your children for. But there are certain things that are just, you should do it. I mean, think about, would you pay your child to brush their teeth? No, it's a part of proper hygiene. So should you pay your child to sweep a floor? No, because it's showing them, when they do that, when they do their chores properly, it shows that they actually care for the family. They're not there for everyone to do it for them. They're here and they realize that everyone plays a part. So before you would go on to procedure 7, you would do the activity where you would break the class into 5 groups or various groups into different age ranges, and you would discuss the appropriate chores and how the children would be responsible for them. So that is what you do on page 75. So let's go ahead and go to LP 9B. We're going to read procedure 7. It says, tell students that we have a responsibility to build a rapport with our children. Maintaining positive communication and interaction will enable us to continue guiding them to make moral choices to become better people. And I want you to remember that these procedures are the key notes that us as teachers, when we're teaching parents or whenever we're teaching a class, these are the points that we want to emphasize to them. Select main points for page 76 through 77 to discuss additional ways to build friendships with our children, to love them, and to find joy in all of their developmental stages. So let's go ahead and turn to page 76. and it's entitled A Few More Thoughts on Responsibility. As a parent, you have a responsibility to spend quality time with your children. Now, I circled quality time and I defined it because everyone can have their own definition of what quality time is. But quality time is whenever you spend it with someone and you give them your undivided attention. And what does that do when you give someone your undivided attention? It strengthens that relationship. It shows that you realize that I am important. So as a parent, it is our responsibility to give our children that undivided attention. Keep in mind that positive moral character is not developed overnight. And I would reference for positive moral character Chapter 3 of the Parenting Manual, just to review or to go over what character is, because it explains the understanding of the connection between parenting and character and how they go hand in hand. Keep in mind that positive character is not developed overnight. So, as you strive to eliminate negative character traits from your own life, remember to be patient and determined to improve yourself for the benefit of your children. And I underline that whole sentence because this is a parenting class. We are training on how to be better parents. But as we try to help our children, we're also realizing that there are things within ourselves that we need to change. It is about the children. They are the future and are worth every minute we invest into them. So as we put every minute we have into our children, how are we investing in ourselves? That is the question. How are we investing in ourselves? 2 weeks ago on Fox News, I just seemed to walk by, and there was a title on the news that was called Failing Our Children. And that really intrigued me. And they were talking about schools and a lot of things like that. But one of the news anchors said, parents don't know how to cope themselves. And that is affecting our children. We're wondering why our children aren't doing okay. They're struggling. They're not finding a reason to live. Well, look at the environment. Are we as parents okay? Are we finding ways to help ourselves? So I want you to look at this. I know it says a child's behavior, but this is really anyone. So it says a child's behavior is not always as it seems, and it has an iceberg. And what we can see is the behavior. But when you look beneath the surface, what is the cause of this behavior? What is leading up to this child's behavior? So it has the social skills, security, the power, their self-esteem, the need to belong, executive functioning, the need for connection, sensory needs, emotions, anger, sadness, fear. Take that and put it to us as parents. If we're stressed, if we know we're mentally not doing okay, why? We can only help our children if we start and help ourselves first. That way that we can work together with our children to become the best people that we can become. So I encourage you, if you as a parent are struggling, go to the counselors, go to whoever in your community. If you're talk with your spouse, go and seek help. Be able to find people that you know can actually help you to get to a better place. Because it all starts with us as parents being okay, and then we can go on to helping our children. We have to improve ourselves first. It says, along with teaching them through your example and positive role modeling, remember to develop a rapport, I hope I'm saying that properly, and it means a relationship, especially trust or emotional support. And that's from the American Heritage Dictionary. That's a relationship, especially trust or emotional support. Or a friendship with your children. For example, when your child brings home worksheets from school and take the time to review them with him, praise him for his efforts. You can even showcase them for a period of time on the refrigerator or in a special area on the wall of his room. Showing appreciation for his efforts builds a rapport with him, and that will encourage and motivate him to continue to excel by putting forth his best efforts in everything that he's doing. Of course, you will not be able to keep every worksheet or drawing he brings home. The day will come when you will have to throw some of those items away. At this time, you'll have two choices. A, discreetly throw away the excess work without your child's knowledge, or B, explain that you cannot keep all the work and allow your child to choose a specified amount that he wants to keep. If he is unable to part with any of them, then go back to step A. So that's talking about as children get older, you can't keep everything. Me, I would just put them in a box, as I do not have the heart to throw work like that away. But you showcase that work to him, though. You put it up, that artwork up, so he could see, as a young child, or they could see that it was important to them. So how much more important do you think it is as children get older to continue to encourage them in something that they're doing well? When they're 3, 5, 6, and 7, we don't want to discourage them. Going up, we don't want to discourage them, so we put all that emphasis into, you did very well. But what about in the times where they become, as people would say, they get into their teenage years? There's still that same person that they were at 2 and 3. They've just had more experience. They've just been influenced more. The same encouragement that you would give that young child is the same encouragement that you should give that child as it grows up. There might be a little bit more correction, but that correction should not blindside that encouragement of doing something that is right, helping them to pursue their goals. Going on, it says, building a friendship with our children should never devalue our roles as effective parents. Our roles as effective parents. Now, what is an effective parent? Yes, we are in chapter 9 about responsibility, but if you go, I'm just going to go to the table of contents, because I really want to emphasize what an effective parent is. So in lesson 4, we talked about what a role of a parent is. And we talked about what a role of a teacher is, and then our role as a provider. And we talked about moral guidelines on how to correct our children. Lesson 5, we get to effective parents have self-control. This is the most important part. Effective parents have self-control. Then do you notice what lesson 6 is? Effective parents teach their children to have self-control. So who must have self-control first? Us as parents. If we want to effectively teach our children, we have to have started the action of these behavioral patterns as well. So as effective parents, we're teaching our children to control their thoughts, feelings, and actions, to be respectful, to care for people, no matter what nationality, what language they speak, if they want to admit that they like this person or not. They deserve respect. We're back on page 76. It says, rather, it should accentuate it. We want our children to be comfortable talking to us, to trust us, and to turn to us when they have doubts or questions. So we want our children to be able to be comfortable to talk with us. I was teaching a peaceful solution class a couple days ago, and a lady was sharing how when she was a child, she was actually scared to talk to her parents because they had this impression of you always need to do something that is right. So they weren't able to build that communication with them. And so she said that she never actually found or knew the value of the rules. The reason she kept the rules was because she didn't want to get in trouble by her parents. Now that is not the relationship that we as parents want to build with our children. We want to make them aware consequences occur when you do not make a right choice, and rules are here to keep you safe. Does that mean you and your children are always going to get along? By no means. But the fact that that door of communication is open, they see the value in those rules, they're willing to come and talk to you, is a very big thing. So teaching children to value those rules. Here are a few ways you can build a relationship with your a friendship with your children. So before we get into those things, I want to go to the acceptance book, page 62, and just remind us what it means to be a friend. It says a friend is someone who supports, respects, and encourages and accepts you as a unique individual. So as parents, we want to support, respect, and encourage and accept our children as unique individuals. And in the character book, page 45, it says that Your family can also be your friends. Now remember, when they encourage you to do something that is right, it means that they're going to point out to you when you do something as wrong. So as willing as we must be to give advice and tell people how well they're doing, we must also be just as willing to accept when someone points out to us that we didn't do so well. Because remember, we're on the path to change. Change makes us uncomfortable. Change makes us have to take steps that we never thought we would have to take. But what kind of person are you becoming whenever you take those steps to become a better person? We all have a view of a person that we want to be. We want to be a person that's always respectful or is successful in life, always taking care of things. But we somehow forget the steps between where we are now and how to get to there. They come with taking a lot of uncomfortable steps. But those are the steps that build us. Those are the steps that make us into the best person that we can be. So a few ways that we can build a friendship with our children is to take note of what their interests are and encourage those that are positive. Of course, guide them to get rid of those that are not beneficial. So really point out, these are not beneficial, but put more emphasis on the ones that are beneficial. You're good at painting, you should paint more. You should paint this picture. I found a picture for you. If you emphasize more what they're interested in and not what they shouldn't be doing, they might actually forget about the things that aren't that positive. Do special activities with them that they will enjoy. Bake a cake, plant a garden, draw, sing, and learn an instrument. And there's also games or activities that will go with the second one. To listen to them. Use active listening not only when you're correcting them, but to also build a positive relationship. Listening skills, or listening games and obedience games, are very important when it comes to children. Whether it is telling them to take a pencil and take it to the table and bring it back, or playing the telephone game where you have to tell one person, tell the other. Those are simple activities that are actually training the children to be effective listeners. Or I've seen before where they have scavenger hunts. You have cards and they have little tasks on them, whether it's collect 3 blue pencils, but it teaches them to follow the instructions. So those activities are actually teaching your children that listening is important, that the rules are important, because to get the treasure, you have to follow the rules on the paper. And it's just like in life. To get to home, you have to follow the signs of the road. To be able to protect yourself, you have to follow the rules that your parents are giving you. Correcting is important, but it is just as important to point out the great things about your children. Be generous with your kind words. So correcting is important, but those encouragement, those pointing out what our children do great, is equally as important. And my mind just gets stuck on page 27 where it says, a child says, "Do you not see anything that I do right?" I imagine a child saying that to you. And have you ever had a day, or anyone had a child, you're working with a child and they said, "I really enjoyed when we did that the other day. Can we do it again?" I had a child say that to me one time, and I kind of got emotional because that day I was not doing the best. So I was like, the fact that you enjoyed that day makes you realize that, hey, I did quite well that day when I was not feeling the best. And some things to really keep in mind is that as parents, we play a huge role in our child's life. And we might really not always hear, "Thank you. Because of you, I'm doing this in life, because of this." But sometimes children don't know exactly how to say thank you. You get in certain ages where it's like kind of uncomfortable to state those, as people would say, emotional or mushy things like "thank you for doing this" or "because you did this." But watch their actions. By their actions, you will see if they're really applying what you've taught them. And you, as a parent, have a satisfaction of knowing that you did your best. You're trying your best. Yes, children, they go up and they make their own choices. But if they're making positive choices, remember, it's because of the influence and the positive change that you have set before them and that you will continue to set before them, because you realize that change starts within, and it will ripple out and affect not only your children, but your children will also go and help other people because of the seed of valuing a positive character that you have implemented within them. And with this, I'll turn it over to the next teacher.
All right, everyone, we're going to pick up on the bottom of page 76 and cover a few more points under ways you can build a friendship with your children. All right, so the second point from the bottom says laugh often. And in the Peaceful Solution in our self-control unit, we talk a lot about laughing often is one of the ways that you can deal with stress, or if you're dealing with anger management. Laughing often, and there's some people that I work with that when they are frustrated, they will just bust out laughing, and you have to look at them like, okay, something really bad just occurred. Like, you already know it because that's how they deal with a tough situation. So laughing often with your children can actually help them see that I don't have to throw things when I get upset. I don't have to scream when I get frustrated. I don't have to go into a closet and put a pillow over my head and scream into the pillow. I can laugh. There's an alternative way to deal with the emotions that I'm feeling. All right, and the next one is greet your children when you first see them and ask how their day went. Show them that you care. All right, and that goes along with, I know we all live fast-paced lives. We live in a fast-paced society to where not only is two parents working, sometimes the older children are going to work now just to make ends meet within our families. So when you do have that minute or you have that time or you first see them, make that 30 seconds count. Because you might not be able to get that 30 seconds back, depending on what is done or what is said in that situation. So remember that, greeting them first off and asking them how their day went. And if they had a rough day or if something went wrong, taking the time to listen to that out. Because you can help them work through a situation that can redirect their focus if the situation comes up later on in life. All right, going on to page 77, it says hug your children. They need to be hugged by their parents. To not hug your child affects them developmentally. And we have a reference here that, hugging, it shows your child that you care. And a hug from a parent to a child isn't to be confused with an inappropriate touch or an inappropriate hug or, going beyond what is acceptable. Hugging is acceptable. Hugging is something that, especially when a child is young and as they get old, it teaches them compassion. It teaches them, empathy for another person, to recognize that this gives them comfort. When somebody does this, okay, I can put my arm around them, I can pat them on the back, and it might not fix it, but they know that they're no longer alone in that situation. Right? Going underneath, it says, as our children grow and mature, they will become productive, self-sufficient people. They will need us less and less as parents, but they will always need us as friends and role models. And that's one thing that you want to emphasize to our parents, that a lot of the times as our children grow older, it's very difficult for parents to detach and to realize that your child still needs you, but not in the full capacity that they did when they were younger. But they do still need you. And remember that friendship and that role model goes a long way. And as your child grows up and maybe they move out of your house or they're going to school out of state or they start a family of their own, they call back to you because that relationship is still there. It's not broken once they move out of your house or once they're gone. That it's still there and they know that they can reach out to you and that you know that you're always there for them. All right, the next point says, make the best effort to spend quality time with your children and teach them all you can. Give them time, guidance, and love, because this is the only way you can hope to raise a successful, hardworking, cheerful child with a firm foundation of positive moral character. And if you have your books, I want you to circle that word love. What does it mean to truly love? That's a word that gets tossed around a lot in our society. I see a lot of people, especially on social media, to complete strangers that we do not know, that we love them. And I'm there for you, and I love my child. Do you know that just last year up north, there was a woman who beat her 6-year-old to death because she loved him that much? She was trying to make sure he'd learn a lesson, and he didn't do it again. But she did it out of love. There's also a parent who their son grew up to commit crime. He became a murderer and he burglarized and accidentally shot a man because his parents loved him too much to correct him when he was younger. They loved him so much that they couldn't tell him no. They couldn't give him a consequence. They couldn't say, no, you can't go out with your friends because it's going to hurt his feelings. They couldn't tell them, no, you can't go on your phone after 11, even if you throw a fit. This is the schedule that is set. Whenever small things occur when they're younger and we don't recognize the importance of setting rules in place, later on in life, that one decision, it builds and it creates an adult one day. And if they don't learn how to follow, or if as parents, and it's so important that we press this on our parents, if a child doesn't understand the regards for rules when they're younger, now you have an adult child. Because now as an adult, they have to learn to respect rules. Because you can't run a stop sign and accidentally hit someone and say, oh, well, they should have been watching where they were going. You thought I was going to stop at a stop sign? I was late. It's not my fault that person got hurt. I did what I could to get where I needed to be. As an adult, those excuses as a child, they're going to be planted on an adult. And we have so many adults who have landed in our prison system simply because of a lack of education. Things that were not taught to them when they were younger, they had to speed learn as adults. And they usually learned it when it was too late to do anything to take those choices back. So it's so important that we recognize the true value of love. Everything you do or we do for our child, for anyone we come in contact with, anyone that we truly love, we make choices in our interactions to benefit them and to have a successful life. If it does anything that encourages them to harm themselves, to hurt themselves, to not say kind words to another person, then out of love, true love for this person, we'll recognize that and point it out to them. Let them know that there's an alternative way. It doesn't always have to be this one way. And I came across this post a few weeks ago, and I want to share it with you because it brought to my mind with this love, having true love for our children. All right, now I want all parents out there and all of us to think back on an experience in our life, something that we went through that as adults, it didn't necessarily break us and it didn't harm us, but it's something that you, if you really think about it, had an impact on your life as an adult, as I read this, okay? It says, my parents beat me as a child and I'm not traumatized, said the man whose ex-partner reported him for physical abuse. When I was a child, they left me for hours, crying alone in my room as I fell asleep, and it was so bad that I didn't want to go out. But it didn't hurt me, said the man who spends long hours on social networking, and now it's affecting his sleep. They punished me as a child, and I'm fine, said the man who every time he makes a mistake says harmful words of contempt to himself and lowers his self-punishment. As a child, they put a heavy hand on me, and I suffer from a trauma called education, said the woman, who still does not understand why all of her partners end up being aggressive towards her. When I became an out-of-control child, my father locked me in a room alone to learn, and today I appreciate him for it, said the woman who has suffered anxiety attacks and cannot explain why she is completely terrified to be locked in small spaces. My parents told me that they were going to leave me alone or give me to a stranger when I threw my tantrums, and I didn't stop, said the woman who has prayed for love and has forgiven repeated infidelities because she hopes for acceptance. My parents controlled me with just a look. Look how well I came out, said the woman who cannot maintain eye contact with authority figures in her life. As a child, I got even with an iron cable, and today I'm a good man. I'm even a professional, said the man who his neighbors has called the police and accused him of harming his children in drunk spurts. My parents forced me to study for a career that made me money and see how well off I am, said the man who dreams of a Friday night off because he is desperate to escape his life. If we truly take a look back throughout our lives, through the way that we were raised, through the way that our parents were raised, we can see it's a cycle that is going. And I'm not saying that every parent is, in a dysfunctional family and everybody was raised one way. That's not inaccurate. But in some level, we've all experienced dysfunctional and across the board. And it's important that we not place blame, but we recognize and become accountable for our actions. You can't change something you've done in your past. You can't change something that was done to us, and you can't change, the fact that our parents didn't know a different way. We're just repeating what we learned. But we can educate ourselves so we can do different. And if that's better, then that's what we want to do. But it's all about education, and that's what the Peaceful Solution promotes is positive character education. Okay, and the next paragraph on page 77. When it comes to parenting, failure should never be an option. And underline that in your books if you have them, okay? Failure should never be an option for parenting. Okay, when a child gets so out of control that we don't know what to do, we don't just chalk them off and hope the next one turns out better. We still improve on the child that we have. We still work with them and recognize that you can teach them, you can give them all the tools. And it might take them 5 years and it might take them 20 years. But that seed that you implanted, one day you're going to see the fruits of that labor. And one day that child is going to become an adult and they're going to realize, oh, if I would have done this 20 years ago, it could have changed my life. If I would have done this 5 years ago, if I wouldn't have gone into this relationship that everyone kept telling me this person was putting, bad influences into my life, if I wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't be where I am now. Keep going and keep promoting, in dealing with our children, that self-control, that patience, that understanding and compassion and empathy, because one day you will see the fruits of it. It might not be in our lifetime, but sometime we will see those fruits. And says, never give up. Don't allow your life to be full of regrets as a parent. And that's what it all comes down to. As a parent, I know a lot of the times we take on the weight of our children, whether it's the success or the, I don't want to say failure, but the lack of success that our children take in what they could become if they put the effort in to reach their full potential. And it's easy to let that weigh us down to where we don't feel that we're capable of being a parent. And you never want to do that. You always want to remind yourself that you're doing the best you can. But in order to tell ourselves that, we have to be doing the best that we can. We have to educate ourselves. And like the teacher before me said, a healthy parent is a healthy child. And that's not just physically, that's emotionally, and that is mentally. If, as an adult, if we can't, if we get overwhelmed and we can't articulate into words most of the time how we're feeling or what is going wrong, imagine how much harder it is for our child to articulate to us. They don't have the words. They don't know what they're feeling. As an adult, I started writing a journal, okay? So anybody who feels overwhelmed, like emotionally or mentally, and you can't figure out why or where, start a journal. Okay, I know it's like it takes so much time. I have so much other things to do. I made 1.5 million excuses forever as to why I couldn't do it. But when I sat down and I started doing it, I figured out why I was doing certain things, why I was feeling certain ways about certain things, and why, certain situations brought up certain emotions that I couldn't place why they were there, where they came from. So as a parent, we have to do the work as well as our children. Because, it's sad to say, but the world doesn't stop so that we can raise our children. The world still goes on as we're raising our children. So we almost have to play catch up, remembering that our physical health, our mental health is so important to benefiting our child's physical and mental health. All right, it says take the time to build a relationship with your children. Love them unconditionally. And if you circle that word unconditionally, it means to love them regardless of what goes on. It is unlimited. Okay, so to love unconditionally is to love them regardless of what goes on. It is unlimited. Okay, create pleasant memories and enjoy the satisfaction of knowing you have done everything in your power to raise your children successfully. Okay, and don't let the hard times define your child. Okay, it's so important as parents that when we look back, we say, oh, that was when they did this, and it completely ruined our vacation because of this one child. And every time you look at the pictures, that's the stories that we tell. Find something beneficial, something that they did do when they were younger, something that encourages them to say, oh, okay, so I've been really not doing my best for the last 6 months, but that one time last year, if I could get back to whoever I was in that point, mentally, that I could do better, that I could do this, that's where I want to go. And always encourage them to make those memories and bring it back to their minds. That this is, remember when you did this? Like, I know you think it's impossible now, but you've already done it. Like, you had the capabilities that you didn't think you did, but you did have them. All right, the quote at the bottom says, live life successfully. Develop a positive character and teach it to your children. And remember, that is the focus of the parenting manual, is to build positive character within ourselves and within our children. All right, so we're going to go back to the procedures and read procedure 8. And procedure 8 says activity number 2. Have students reconvene into groups with corresponding age ranges. Instruct students to brainstorm family activities to involve their children. Have students share them with the class. All right, so this is talking about on the bottom of page 76, and the first teacher gave us a lot of activities that we can do with our children depending on the age range. But on the bottom of page 76, it tells us to take note of their interest, okay, and then encourage them to promote these, encourage them to go after them. So as a parent, when you are teaching this to parents, get them talking as to what your child likes to do. And sometimes you'll find out they might not know what their child likes to do. Because in society today, it is not always promoted and it is not always encouraged that parents interact with their children every single day in every aspect of your life. Because they're at school, and that is what teachers and guidance counselors are for. I gave them food, I give them clothes, I give them a house to live in. They have teachers and guidance counselors that can do the rest. Okay, but as parents, it's our job as parents to take interest in our child, to know what they're intrigued in. Okay, if a report ever comes to us as to what our child is doing, and our first response is, my child would never do that, we might want to consider what our child might be doing that might be when they're not with us. That it might be done that we're not aware of. Always being open-minded to recognize that their parents are, our children are doing things 24/7, and as parents, we can't be there 24/7. But find out what they're interested in and pay attention to that, even if it's something small, right? Even if you don't have much that you can offer them, you can give them a special pencil that you have, or if they're always admiring this one pen that you use, give them a writing assignment with that one special pen, and it will be the biggest steal to like a 6 and 7-year-old, okay, to something as simple as that. But find out what interests them and then go with that, and do special activities with them. If they like to go outside and if they like animals, do something with animals, go out into nature. The simple things that cost absolutely nothing money-wise can mean absolutely everything to a child. So find out theirs and get the parents talking and sharing, because a lot of the things that my children might like to do, your child might like to do something entirely different. And then I can try that idea with my child and see, okay, I have one child who doesn't like instruments, they don't like writing, they don't do songs, they don't sing, they don't do art, but I find out that they're actually into editing videos. And the reason they're playing video games all the time is because they want to figure out how to create them. Okay, so what can I do to get them off of playing video games, but find the real reason that they wanted to play them to begin with is because they're intrigued as to how it's created. They want to know how to make something, with technology. Find that source instead of seeing that I don't want them on the phones or I don't want them playing video games. Why do you want to play that video game? Like, why does this intrigue you? Why does this interest you? Because a lot of the times it's not for the reasons we initially think. Sometimes it's for another reason and they just don't know how to articulate that. So keep that in mind in getting to know our children. All right, so going into procedure 9, it says conclude by encouraging students to continue to practice all that they have learned during this course. The concepts will assist them in changing their lives and the lives of their children by incorporating positive moral character in all that you say and do. Okay, so that officially completes lesson 9. So we're going to flip over to lesson plan 10, and we'll go into to lesson number 10. All right, so lesson plan 10, page 10A. It says lesson plan 10, rewards and consequences really do work. The purpose and objective. Students will learn how to instill positive change in their children by using a simple reward system. Materials needed is the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program Parenting Manual, activity cutouts, and our pens or pencils. All right, and procedure 1, of course, is a review of the lesson before. So briefly review lesson 9, Teaching Children Responsibility, by asking the following questions. All right, and question number 1 is, what is being responsible? And that whole previous chapter was about that. So when you are teaching, in a class session where you have multiple parents, or we actually found it's sometimes more helpful to have one-on-one parenting classes, because then parents feel that they can share more and they can be more open without, fear of other parents judging how they're interacting with their children. So a lot of the times, if you are teaching this, you will have one-on-one interaction with your teachers. But if you are in a group, get their feedback as to what stuck out to them from the lesson previously, what it means to be responsible. All right, but for your reference, you can put in your book, page 18 is where it gives us the actual definition. So page 18 of this book gives us the definition for the word responsible. And the answer they give here is able to fulfill duties and obligations, able to make choices that are positive and supportive of moral character development. All right, question number 2 is, what are some steps to developing responsibility? And again, you want to get their feedback. You want to see what they learned, what's something that they took from the class, and maybe they tried it at home, and they found that these steps worked in their lives, with their family, with their children. So it was what you taught them, but they tweaked it to fit their family members, because every child learns differently. All right, the answer they give here is develop a positive work ethic, assign chores, be accountable for what you have been asked to do, and we cover this on pages 73 to 76. So if you want to have that for your reference, steps to developing responsibility, they were covered on page 73 to page 76. And then the question number 3, which is the last question, is why is it important to praise a child for being responsible? Okay, and that was given to us on page 76, paragraph 1. Okay, so why is it important to praise a child for being responsible? That's page 76, paragraph 1. Okay, and it says it motivates the child to continue developing the positive character trait of responsibility. It shows respect, and it shows that you care. That's why it is so important to constantly be motivating and praising our children to be responsible. All right, and before we go into procedure 2, I want to flip back, because this has been coming into my mind as I've been listening to classes with the parenting manual, and it was way back when we first started our parenting manual. So if you'll flip back to page 15. Okay, so as we go into lesson 10, rewards and consequences, they really do work. I want you to keep this in mind as we go through this lesson on page 15. And it's the parenting self-analysis, okay? All right, and the point number 1 is, I want to become a better parent because. Okay, as children, as we'll get into, if you want your child to do better, we have an idea of what we want our child to be better at, or what we want to improve with. So as parents, keep this in mind. As you're going through this manual, as you're going through these classes, as you're taking this course, what is the goal that you hope to achieve? Why do you want to become better at anything you do, but especially being a parent? Have an idea and have a general idea in your mind that you can write down, you can take note of. Okay, I want to become better because I see that I don't have a great communication with my child, or I see that when my children want to come to me, they fear how I might react when they ask me something they know I'm not going to like. Or my children, when they do something, they slide me a note as an apology instead of telling me what they did wrong, because they fear the response. Whatever the reason is, okay, why I want to become a better parent. Number 2, what areas do I need to improve on to become an effective parent? So it's really a self-evaluation. Okay, I know that I want to improve my relationship with my child. I know I want to improve my child's relationship with me. But what am I doing as a parent to get there? What do I want to improve on? All right, number 3, everyone has strengths. Things that they do well that can be helped to improve. So what are your strengths? And it gives us 3 points here. What are 3 strong points that you have as being a parent? Write those down and be honest with yourself. Sometimes it's easier to criticize ourselves than it is to see what we do well. Right? So this isn't really a breakdown of, how terrible of a parent you are and everything you need to do better. It's just recognizing that this is what I'm great at, but this is where I see that I can improve. Even if we're already doing really well at it. Can we improve in these ways? And then the last question is, how do you think improving your character and skills as a parent will improve your family? Okay, so writing all of those down, and then if you're taking the parenting manual course, one thing that I did when I was thinking about those questions is write down why I even want to take this course to begin with. Why am I taking a course to learn to be a better parent? Why am I taking a course to learn how to teach parents to do better? Why am I giving it my time? Because if you're giving so much time to educate ourselves to do better or to benefit others and to help them, we have to know why. Otherwise, we're just doing it and we don't really have a purpose. So write down why you even want to do this course. Why are you taking this course? What problems or issues do you see in society as a whole that has to do with the family structure that you see, okay, this one thing is something that I'm really passionate about. So then I can teach about it and I can help others because I've educated myself on this one point here. And I can bring that out and I feel that I could help parents in ways that they might not notice that things are. Right? Or if you're a young person growing up in this generation, let me tell you, we all need help understanding this generation. So if you're, taking notes to see this is what's going on, like I think if parents were this with the technological world that we live in today, these are the ways I feel that I'm misunderstood. Okay, so then we can better, as parents and as teachers of this, of the parenting manual, can better learn from that and then grow with things that we might not have experienced or ever felt or thought about. All right, so we're going back to Lesson Plan 10, page 10A, and it's Procedure 2, and it says, tell students that they will learn about using rewards to positively influence a child's behavior. Ask volunteers to share any rewards they have used with their children and their effects. Discuss the main points in the first 3 paragraphs on page 79 and the benefits of developing a reward system. Have students brainstorm real-life situations where it would benefit to implement a reward system. All right, so we're going to turn over to page 79. And the brainstorming we'll actually do at the end of this procedure. So if you want to make a note in your book, we're going to do the brainstorming after we read the three paragraphs on page 79. Okay, so lesson 10, rewards and consequences really do work, on page 79. It says there are times when children might be resistant to following the rules or changing their behavior. In cases like this, you might want to consider a simple reward system to focus on specific problematic behaviors. And then they give us an example. For example, your son has a problem sitting quietly during events. His behavior is disruptive to others around you. Although you have tried to patiently explain and remind him of the rules and expected conduct, his negative behavior persists. At this point, you now have 3 choices. Okay, so put yourself in the shoes of this parent. If you've ever had a toddler and you've had to sit through any kind of workshop or any kind of class that is longer than 20 minutes, you can understand the difficulty that this can present. Okay, so put yourself in this mother's shoes. This is an event that she goes to regularly. Okay. She's told him repeatedly, she's reminded him of what is expected of him, and this just keeps persisting. And if you've ever had a child and you're in a group of people and that child is acting up and everyone is staring at you and everyone is saying, can she not control her child? Can she not do something about that? Can she just take him out of here? All of these comments you're hearing around you as a parent, you're trying to figure out how to get this child to just calm down for a second so you can get your mind in control and get your thoughts going like, I thought I planned for everything. Because if you're taking a child to sit down for long periods of time, you have a bag packed. And you have to have a game plan because everything that could go wrong is probably going to go wrong. And that child's not going to want to sit even for as long as you're expecting them to. So you have to have that game plan. All right, at this point, you have 3 choices. You can become frustrated and ignore his behavior, never take him out of the house again, or start a reward system that focuses on motivating him to sit quietly during events. All right, and we're going to end there, and when we come back next class, we're going to talk more about the reward systems and go more into detail on how we can deal with situations like this when we find ourselves in. All right, so I thank everyone for tuning in. I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and we'll see you back here next week and pick up at the same time. Bye.